I just sent you some message. Could you read me?
报告王教授，我跟光夏被踢
I
出
sent
口译
you
室，所以你们在
message.
现在的群组频道声音里面可以听到我们的声音，但是我和
我有听到。
光夏对，但我们应该在这边说中文的时候，与会者的主讲人是不应该听到声音，只有听中文翻译的这个才可以，所以我们两个已经又被踢出翻译室，请主持人那个 administrator 协助我们再回到口译的这个功能里面，谢谢。
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual panel hosted by Taipei 101 Women Entrepreneur Association. My name is Mei Lu, Charter President of Taipei 101 Women Entrepreneur Association, also World Vice President of FCM, a world-leading female organization for business women. Our topic today is the impact of COVID-19 and responsive strategies from female business leaders. One of our speakers today is a recovered COVID-19 patient. Another speaker is a family member who is recovered COVID-19 patient. The pandemic has impacted millions of lives around the world. It's been a crisis, it's been an opportunity. Let's take a journey from France, Australia, Bangladesh, and Taiwan. Listen to their voice on how they have been minimized the impact of COVID-19 in business and what they have been learning from their experiences. First of all, I'm very honored to introduce my mentor as well as co-moderator of this event, Lillian, Professor Wong. Lillian is a professor of National Taiwan University. She finished her PhD from School of Social Welfare, UCLA. Now her research focuses on gender justice in workplace, gender-based violences, gender care, and migrant workers' well-being. In addition to academic work, she is active in NGOs and in different levels of governmental agencies for advocating gender equality and women's rights. On behalf of Taiwan, she attended the Forum of UN NGO CSW many years for presenting best practice of women's rights in Taiwan. Thank you for bringing Taipei 101 Women Entrepreneurs Association to the NICE platform, NGO CSW, Professor Wong. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our speakers today. All the four great ladies have been my very good friends for years. They are all successful business women. Our first speaker comes from France. Her name is Marie-Christine Ugly. I would like to special thanks to her. She has to stay awake in early morning. I do appreciate her support. She is world president of CM. She is a successful entrepreneur. She used to serve Amazon Technology as marketing manager and managing director in 1980s. In 1990s, she started to work as an entrepreneur. Now she owns Enginesoft France, specialized in numerical simulation engineering. Meanwhile, she has been actively involving in the civic and associative activities. She has many titles for several global women associations, including World President of FCM. Let's welcome Marie-Christine. Next speaker is Dan Thompson. She is Regional Commissioner of FCM in Asia Pacific. Dan is co-owner of 3 companies in Tasmania, Australia. She's an inspiring leader, encouraging and helping other entrepreneurs to reach their full potential and to benefit emerging economies in the empowerment of their women. She has earned numerous rewards for her contribution in business and women leadership. Welcome, Diane. Our third speaker comes from Bangladesh, Shireen Wong. Shireen's life philosophy shaped her destiny. It started when she observed her parents' work, and her parents' sweats induced her determination to succeed in life. She worked at her father's company, from a one-person lorry transport company to a big transport company. She could not afford to go to university, but skill-based learning served her very well. Welcome, Shireen. Next, I'm going to introduce a successful lawyer from Taiwan. Her name is Sarah Ma. Sarah is a partner in Baker McKenzie's Taipei office, where she practiced in labor and employment law, intellectual property, and dispute resolution. She is also a pioneer in the rapidly growing China practice, assisting clients who conduct business in the mainland. Big welcome to all of our speakers. Now, it's the time to give the floor to my mentor and the co-moderator, Lillian. Professor Wong.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the session. I know some people hasn't wake up yet. And some people has been tired. Anyway, this is a kind of special occasion. Everybody has given some So we will have four speakers.
I think Prof. Wong, sorry, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. We will have four speakers today. As you have heard from me, everyone is so special in terms of their life, particularly in the successful business. So this is something I like a lot. So I admire all of you so much. And since time limited, I'm not going to too much interrupt you, but just let you know we will have four speakers, and everyone I will give you a little bit questionnaires if nobody asks you, and hopefully we will finish by on time. Okay, and everyone will at least have 50 minutes to present your PPT slides and everything. So can I have honor invite first speaker, Marion Christian? Marion, the floor is yours.
First of all, unmute, and I will share my screen. Many thanks for inviting me to this session, and I will just share my screen. We'll try at least. No, doesn't work. Is that okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, it is clear.
It's clear, okay.
Yes.
So then I think I can start. And first of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about who are we as FCEM. It's an association which started in France in 1945. So a long time ago. It was a woman who was alone at the end of the Second World War, and she had to manage the companies that her husband started first. In 1957, she started FCE in Europe.
Yes.
And then FCEM, a World Association. Today, we are more than 500,000 members, split in 120 countries. And usually we meet twice a year, one for President Committee and once for Congress. Of course, 2020 and beginning of 2021 has been a bit different, as we need to do visio and as we do today. But we hope to meet again in November in Turkey. So what's about coronavirus crisis? This crisis made us all thinking. Lockdown in most of countries is a very difficult time when we are able to step back, and many of us realized that we can no longer live as we used to. Of course, in short term, this may be thought as a sweet dream, but maybe not. And we can see you in Taiwan, you already have a normal life, which is not the case at all in different parts of the world.
Okay.
This crisis has psychological effects on each of us, and no doubt that it will lead to changes in behaviors, in behavior of consumers, employees, and investors, especially since the climate emergency is still with us. I would like to highlight the crucial role and situation of women during the sanitary and economic crisis. It therefore has an essential role to play in the recovery of our economy and the responses to be made to the major environmental and social challenges that await us. Because everywhere in the world, and this is where my view as world president of women entrepreneurs comes into play, it is a factor in development of territories through the creation of local jobs that cannot be relocated, but also in the emancipation of women. During the past year, I have had the opportunity to participate in a number of events organized by UNIDO, WBF, federations of entrepreneurs, men and women, events organized by different French ministries and mainly by Ministry of Gender Equality. But above all, I have participated in events organized by different member associations or FCM of the 5 continents. I was able to observe how quickly and efficiently the mobilization of women entrepreneurs has been effective and has often compensated in certain countries for the weaknesses of government measures. Even in countries where government measures have reached levels that no one could have imagined to support the economy, partial unemployment, solidarity funds for enterprises with most difficulties, low interest loans guaranteed by states, financing of recovery. Women entrepreneurs have mobilized to provide help, advices, information relays, decoding of measures, assistance, support, tools to better understand digitalization. It was the case, for example, in France, in Italy, UK, Germany, Belgium, US, but I'm sure in all countries it was the same. Setting up mentoring within the same country or between countries. It was a case of Australia and Mauritius, for example. It can be a kind of prototype, and this experience will be extended to other countries, region. Information and training have developed in the different countries. Some of our members' association went on the field to distribute masks, food, medical equipment. It was the case in Latin American countries, in African countries, but also in Europe, and I'm sure in Asia it was the same as well. Some have opened their hotel establishments, sometimes offices, to allow patients or care people, nurses, to be located close to their place of work.
So happy.
Many have lobbied for the implementation of economical measures to help companies which were closed by force. I will give you some of the example of what we done in France.
Okay, so
Oh, hello, Diane. We organized immediately in France a platform to share information between members with different sections like finance, tourism, retail, legal, to give all information on updates on government economic measures and help such solidarity funding, partial activity tax on social charges, schedule possibilities, barrier measure to set in place in companies, remote homework, obligation when possible, relaunch plan on funds available, exchange all type of useful information and tips. We established an health task force to listen, advise, accompanied women entrepreneurs who were in stress, with of course a guarantee of confidentiality. Crisis idiom in Chinese, and you know that, is crisis but also opportunities. And for sure, a lot of companies were closed by administration or anyway highly affected by lockdown. But some other activities were vital and needed labor force. We encourage the loan of manpower between companies who had no activity and companies which were needing manpower. Retail shops and restaurants organized click and collect between the essential shops still open and the others which were closed. Then we saw groceries delivering flowers, books or clothes in click and collect for colleagues who had to keep their shop closed. It was a vast wave of solidarity, but also an opportunity to innovate and push digitalization. Also to change habits and buy local agricultural products delivered directly from farmers. As government obliged companies to set in place the remote work, the work from home, it changed the look women had on their own life. The possibility to work from home with digital meetings, digital work, to allow also the change from living in a small apartment in large metropole like Paris, to a house with a garden and a better quality of life, even in a small village. It's possible, it's completely easy to do it when you have internet and you can do remote working. It's saving transportation time, be less stressed, and have no more time to be relaxed with family. What's true for women is also true for men, who spent more time with children during lockdown, more time to cook. What seemed impossible a year ago have been rapidly organized. We organized a lot of dedicated webinars, bilateral or multilateral events to encourage business between the different countries, to share best practices. It was the case between Turkey and Italy, Germany and Mediterranean countries, European, Asian, a lot of countries. Through FCM website, we gave access to our members to FCM radio, our own YouTube. We have our own digital conference room, which can be used by our members. It's the equivalent of Zoom, but it's our own room, conference room. The key point was really to make sure none of them was alone with difficulties. Mentoring and role models are really crucial. It helps women to be conscious of their important role, taking care of family, but also managing their own business. It certainly changed on a durable way, the way of working. On FCM side, we just started masterclasses program for our members, also organized by some of our members. Countries are sharing their best classes. We will continue to push for bilateral or multilateral events to develop business and best practices. In 2019, we signed an MOU with UNIDO to develop business of women in sustainable and circular economy to promote women entrepreneurs' empowerment. We also signed in February 2020 an MOU with World Business Angels Forum to help startups and companies to grow and find funds to develop their activity. We already had 2 tools to develop business among members, and I know in Taiwan and in Asia you use it a lot. One is a business platform called FCM BizNet, totally dedicated to business, on which any member from any of our association has a kind of small website to present her product activities, make her offer, sell directly to other members. We also have our FCM community, which help members to develop their network, create synergies with other members. Many presidents of FCM member associations have contacted me to find out what measures have been put in place in France at the economic level in order to make proposals in their own countries. It was the case, for instance, of Czechia, of Russia, some African countries as well. Many have organized digital events between 1, 2, or 3 countries to exchange good practices, but also to see how to develop their activities internationally. In US, they were not so much turned to international. They already asked me to speak twice at one of their events. Our FCM network has proven to be an excellent tool for networking, exchanges, solidarity, support, and of course, friendship. Women entrepreneurs are often more vulnerable because their businesses have less equity capital, and especially if they are a single parent or need to take care to their family. They are most of the time the ones who, while continuing to work from home, manage family and children, even taking care also their own parents or husband parents. It's really important to keep women in leadership position for the health of our globe. If we compare the countries which were the most affected by virus, such as Peru, USA, Spain, UK, Italy, France, they are all governed by men. At the opposite, the countries which manage the pandemic in a better way with less death, such Germany, Taiwan, New Zealand, Ireland, Finland, Norway, Denmark, are all governed by women. Look for the error. Unfortunately, majority of women are in lower paid sectors. In addition to pay inequalities, women are more affected by part-time employment or less valued jobs. On the other hand, also the number of women managers in large companies is growing steadily. Their position remains weak. As a result, women remain much more fragile from an economic point of view. Not to mention the fact that they are virtually absent from the major decision-making bodies in this area. Christine Lagarde being the exception as former managing director of the International Monetary Fund and current president of the European Central Bank, and now the new managing director of International Monetary Fund, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. What weight will they have tomorrow when it comes to rebuilding everything? Thus, according to a barometer published by World Employers Organization, 70% of its members estimate that the situation of women in governance on the economy will deteriorate after coronavirus crisis. Published in the manifesto entitled When the Crisis Points the Finger at the Specificities of Female Entrepreneurship, the women entrepreneurs warn of the increasingly difficult condition in which they must run their business. The new challenges in digital services are several opportunities for women. The local elections that took place in France in March last year shows that the population is more and more attached to ecological notions. Some very large cities have new mayors, especially ecological mayors. This shows an awareness and a desire to live more ethically with regard to our planet. Because of this pandemic is linked to a virus that spread to humans through an animal origin. What is the cause of this pandemic? Maybe our exploitation of the planet through deforestation, intensive agriculture, mining industry is increasingly reducing the place of wild animals. We cause intense stress to these animal species, which unconsciously defend themselves by producing viruses that are increasingly difficult to control. Global warming is changing our agriculture. Our water needs are growing and the resource is becoming increasingly scarce. We will no longer be able to make a frantic race for growth using the same method. We already see the limits and we are only at the beginning of the problems. The role of women will be crucial as most of the time they develop new ways of agriculture, are much more sensitive to human, to ethic, to respect nature and to develop circular economy. As an entrepreneur, we do not believe that the solution is the decline, but growth achieved in another way. Creating wealth is always a goal that will allow people to live better, but not at any price. The objective is to create economic models based on respect for the environment. The circular economy is one of the most suitable solutions to achieve this, and women are very active in these domains. How can we think that our intelligence and our technology, which allows exploit to send men to other planets, or push telecommunication with results that were not even possible a century ago, does not find solution to save our planet. It's a question of political ambition on each of one of us. We entrepreneurs who know how to fight to make our businesses sustainable must change our paradigm and question ourselves. Women entrepreneurs who are also mothers must be bridgeheads to ensure that business serves this cause and allows our children to have a decent future. But beyond that, its values and practices can also inspire the necessary reforms of economic regulation and encourage public authorities, businesses, and citizens to move towards a more solidarity-based, fairer, and more responsible economy. The pandemic and its psychological effects on each of us will with no doubt lead to changes in behaviors of consumers, employees, and investors, especially since climate emergency is still with us. Next, expectation in terms of sovereignty, consumption of raw materials, and a more intelligent social model invite us to rethink an ecological and responsible industrial model. A model that can meet the requirements of sustainable development while ensuring sufficient growth for the well-being of population. Let us rely on what has demonstrated its effectiveness and relevance in our processes to propose other ways of producing and consuming that meet new expectations. The social and solidarity economy by structuring new economic sectors with social and environmental impact more inclusive will be useful to get out of the crisis. The new generation are increasingly favoring companies that get involved in society in a useful way. They are seeking greater responsibility and trust collective intelligence to foster creativity and inventiveness. This is an approach that companies in social solidarity economic sector and women are carrying forward. Our role will be key in the future. At a time when challenges of health, sustainable development, and the search for well-being are forcing us to rethink our ways of producing and consuming social and solidarity economy driven by women is more than ever a real and indispensable link in this new value chain. So, one advice to conclude. I know I've been maybe a bit long. We are facing a crisis, but it's also a great opportunity to show up. Us, women, we have a great role to play as we consider human social responsibility, climate change. You who are listening us, take those opportunities to be also tomorrow a woman entrepreneur. I'm really a strong believer in our association motto from 1945. Alone, we are invisible. Together, we are invincible. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jan, Christine, Mary Christine. That's great speech. Thank you so much. I feel we cannot finish on time, but you did a good job for us. And I'm sure we'll have a long, more to talk about your perspective, crisis opportunity, and social solidarity economy. I think that's new for us. And although Chinese say a crisis is opportunity, but still we need to create a special, this special occasion. And anyway, thank you very much. I will have to move on. Can I have honor invite the second speaker, Jan Thompson? Jan, are you here? We cannot hear you.
On mute.
Unmute.
Sorry, it was a bit of a roundabout way to unmute myself. It suddenly disappeared in the gallery view. Hi, everybody. I do have a slide presentation. If someone could put that up for me. The slides. Erin, is it possible to have my...
We can work for you. Don't worry. You just start.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about Australia's point of view because
yes,
obviously it's been a little different to the rest of the world. The biggest advantage being that Australia is a very isolated place. It's the largest island in the world, and I even come from an island below the island. So it has many good ways of protecting us by stopping people from coming into the border of Australia and or over the borders, and therefore the pandemic has been far less significant here. Our government last February reacted like the entire world. It closed schools and universities and closed many businesses, but it did keep construction and manufacture going, so that the economy has bounced back probably a little bit quicker than it would have done if we had not allowed that to happen. Unfortunately, closing borders also closes some opportunities, and Australians aren't allowed to leave Australia, nor is anyone allowed back in, and only 4,000 people a month can do that. I think there's still about 35,000 people who are stranded around the world who can't get back because we don't have systems in place and quarantines where people can return safely. So if you look at the statistics, and I think we're on slide 3 now, the statistics of the of COVID in Australia is that since it began in about February last year, we've only had 29,000 cases approximately, 909 deaths, and at the moment we only have 2,053 cases active, and that's all from returning Australians from overseas. By shutting borders and not allowing Australians out, many of us who have businesses overseas, and I have a business in Malaysia, we're a bit hamstrung. We can't move around the world, and so everything has to be done online, and our whole way of thinking has had to change. In examining the impact on businesswomen in Australia, I guess most of us have been, and if we go to the next slide, most of us have been affected in those sort of supposedly women-related businesses like hospitality, tourism, people-oriented business such as hairdressing, health and beauty, service industries, the real estate sector, and of course education. And in many cases, their businesses were financially reliant upon steady incomes, and due to consequences outside of their control in the pandemic, that financial security disappeared overnight. Could we have the next slide, please? And the next one. Move it on to the next one. Thank you. So I'm just going to talk about what our organisation, Les Femmes Chefs d'Entreprise, has many of its branches around the world, and Women Chiefs of Enterprise International, WCEI, is one of those chapters. And how did we cope with that? Well, you know, as everyone knows, the whole of February, I think we were in denial, but we met as a board and we decided to hold meetings every month, but we asked everyone from all over Australia to contribute. And so that's had a fantastic positive effect on our association, because instead of just limiting ourselves state by state to face-to-face meetings, all of a sudden we've opened it up to the whole of Australia. So in fact, instead of impacting negatively on us, it's been a very positive outcome, and we've got members because of it. So it's been fabulous. We no longer have to get in a car and travel somewhere. We can get there in much less time by turning on our computers and going online. So it's saved time out of our business, which is really positive. We've sent care packages to the women of Victoria because they've been in and out of social distancing all year and shutdowns, and they were in a lot of distress mentally as well as physically. We've made all the events free to our members. We've had regular messages from the President, and any members in distress, they were not required to pay our annual subscription, which has been fantastic. And like Marie-Christine has mentioned, we supported each other through the crisis. And we too have had that alone we are invisible, together we are invincible. Invisible and together we are invincible, sorry. Because, you know, if we don't support each other, how are we going to get that support? And, you know, it's something I think that women do extremely well. Could I have the next slide, please? In the case of the mentoring program, We had a team of very committed women, both in Mauritius and in Australia. And we were meant to attend the FCEM president's meeting in Mauritius, and of course that all was cancelled. And we had to find another way of displaying our workshops, which we were going to hold there to business women of the region. We had to work out how we were going to present that. So we decided that we would do it online. Little did we know that then we were going to spend the next 8 months putting it together and getting it online. But at the time, it was a very ambitious project, but it's something that will endure well past the people who have put the project together. It's in both French and English, and I think it's been run in the Indian Ocean Islands as we speak, and I think having a very positive effect on business women there who are either starting a business or have the ambition to make their businesses even more successful than they are at present. So we'll have to tweak it, obviously, and review it as you do everything. But it's been a really wonderful thing to be part of, and I certainly hope it helps those women in the Indian Ocean Islands, because the women are the ones, as Marie-Christine said, who are going to get our countries back on track economically. We have the drive, the passion, the energy, and the commitment, because we want to save our children and have them educated and feed our families. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how our business combated COVID, because last year, at the end of the year, we received an export award from the Australian government for the way that we coped with COVID. And I start off in the paper that I've written for this presentation by saying that the journey began like no other, and it really presented a golden opportunity for all of us to show how resilience, innovation, and confidence in our leadership and decision making proves how we can master any problem presented to us. I have to say, though, that perhaps every other day and every month having a new challenge was quite difficult. And every time you turned around, you solved one problem and the next minute you had another. It just seemed like the entire year was full of having to make quick, considered decisions and implementing new procedures, completely changing the way we do business. And I think only those of us who were prepared to adapt were going to succeed. Obviously, in some of those business sectors that I mentioned earlier, nothing you did was going to help the crisis. But we in manufacturing were fairly lucky, because when January came about in 2020, we suddenly realised that we had very unreliable suppliers and particularly from China, because they stopped shipping. Our smaller produce was made, or goods were made in Malaysia. We were unable to do that in Australia. And we had an influx of orders, which meant we weren't able to supply anyway. So it was pretty much a nightmare in end of January, beginning of February. Can I have the next slide, please? But I just want to talk to you about how we fix that problem, because I think it might help others if they're going to go through that same crisis. So like the rest of the world, began to meet regularly via Zoom. Our business manager based in Malaysia moved back to Singapore and worked in isolation there, but with the Zoom meetings with all our distributors, he drove them to chase orders and literally inspired everyone in the process. So then when Malaysia shut down its country in February, and it gave us a whole 12 hours notice that this was going to happen. So no shipping anything back to Australia. It was just instant. We contacted the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Now, in every country, you're going to have someone, a government agency responsible for looking after you as your country, whether it be France or Taiwan or Bangladesh or Malaysia. Those countries will have supplied someone in the country you're in who will look after you. So some sort of crisis, you know, if you have a car accident and you need to be flown back to Australia, they look after that. But they also look after their businesses. And that's how we managed to get all our workers back after 4 weeks shut down in Malaysia, back to work. The police were pulling people up in the streets, and if you didn't have a letter, you were put in jail. So it was pretty serious, I have to say. So we found we couldn't get anything done. You know, like we couldn't get these people back to work. We tried everything and nothing worked. And it seems that government-to-government discussions happen and then there's an outcome. So never be afraid to ask for help, I think, is the message I'm trying to get across. Like in our case, it's the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia, and it will be your embassies that deliver that sort of help. So we also had to buy the equipment that I mentioned earlier we didn't have in Australia so that we could manufacture in both facilities everything, like over 1,000 products. And then we put procedures in place to make sure everyone was safe, as all businesses would have had to have done right across the world. We employed a designated marketer, so we pushed a lot of effort into marketing and advertising rather than travel. So, and that's another wonderful thing that we found. That in my last point, I said that although there's been no travel to visit other countries, we're actually much improved. And a lot of money from travel has gone back into our cash flow, so we can utilise it in other areas of the company. And we also released new products and held Zoom meetings where we had more participants than we'd ever had before to face-to-face meetings. So there were very unusual outcomes of this whole pandemic, you know, the unexpected positive outcomes. So we effectively reinvented ourselves month by month, not really knowing whether anything that we were doing was going to work. We just had to try it and see, and we lost no staff in the process, which was very fortunate. So going to the next slide, could we change the slide, please? I just want to give you a checklist of positive outcomes. So this is how we survived. We tried not to panic and be strong and resolute. Not always possible. I mean, after the first 2 or 3 gin and tonics, I'm sure we all relaxed. But if we were making those quick decisions, we at least considered what would happen if we made those decisions. We at all times trusted in our instincts, and like I said, we didn't even know whether some of this stuff was going to work. I mean, we were buying equipment online that you would normally go into a shop to buy, like big items like soldering machines and all sorts of things. So it was quite scary. The wrong thing could have turned up. Surround yourself with positive, capable people, really, really important. So you don't want a person there at your right-hand side saying, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Because, you just got to think this is going to work, otherwise it won't. And as I said before, with DFATs, get advice. If you need help, ask someone. And my final point was looking after your health. I mean, it's weird that in in Tasmania, where I live, we haven't had COVID since April last year. People still suffered because we were still in isolation. We were still not meeting properly anywhere. They weren't allowing more than about 6 or 7 people in restaurants. So you just didn't go out, you didn't do anything. And people were getting very lethargic and listless and depressed. And so, depression is a real illness. And I think just about everyone I've spoken to, particularly business people, they all suffered from it. You can't sort of be positive all of the time, and things get you down, and that social isolation, particularly for people like me that like other people, it's very difficult living with one other person in the house, and at least I had one other person in the house, but it's really difficult, no one to talk to, and one of us working upstairs room and the other one downstairs, not talking to each other except at mealtimes. Really strange way to live. So I just want to talk to you quickly about the next slide, please, about what I discovered we're talking about our triple bottom line, the social, economic and environmental causes. I've spoken a lot about the economic side of it because, businesses and the way we react and we cope with these traumas. That's the economic side of it. But, we've got to try and remain positive and tackle each day as it comes with its new challenge. But the social interaction is the one. So, we've somehow got to interact with people on a regular basis. And the women's groups like FCEM and Women Chiefs of Enterprise, that's the way that you can really be able to step outside your very insular way of living and talk to other people and discuss with them how you're feeling, because that's when you find that everyone else feels the same way. And Women Chiefs some of the states have had their own members going on Zoom with a glass of wine in one hand or an orange juice if it's your preferred drink, and chatting to each other and talking and sharing insights into what's happening. And it's a really way of tackling this pandemic. With the environmental impact, I think if you get away from that workplace, going for a walk. I'm based down next to a beach, so getting out and having the wind blow through the brain is an excellent way of clearing your thought processes. But, nature doesn't give in on us, and we shouldn't give in on us, give in either, because as long as we're healthy, we can reinvent ourselves, and like the phoenix, we can rise again. Businesses may fall, but essentially the most important thing is your family, your friends, and your health. And as long as you try and remember that, in over 30 years in business, I know that we've had some pretty close shaves with our financial security. And it's always come back, providing that you remember that although business is important, very important, things that you have to remember is as I mentioned, your family, friends, and your own health. So I'll leave that with everybody. I hope this has helped you, and the Women of Australia cannot wait for the rest of you to be able to visit us or we visit you. I've had several conversations with people through this week saying that I really miss it. I really miss seeing and talking to the wonderful women of the world. And we are united. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well, thank you, Diane. I think that's an excellent speech again from Australia, because we are running out of time. So now I have to set up the time everyone limit to 12 to 15 minutes because our time will be closed at 11:30. So that means we have 35 minutes more. So sorry for the rest of two speakers. Can I have honor to leave to the Sharon? Sharon, are you here? Yeah, this is your floor.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, co-moderator, Prof. Wong, and moderator, Mei Lu, for your kind introduction. Please allow me to share my PowerPoint. I'm Shireen Bond, Catex Garments Limited's chairman. According to the latest statistic of 2020, Bangladesh population was 166.3 million and meal ratio for Bangladesh was 102 meals per 100 females. Up to date, 123 million COVID cases have been identified. 2.7 million people have perished, and America alone, 500,000 people have died. The first coronavirus in Bangladesh was on 8 March 2020, and up to date, Bangladesh recorded 577,000 cases, 8,700 people have died, and 525,000 have recovered. In this challenging time, people struggle to keep up good health without compromising on work capability. Bangladesh. The ready-mix garments RMG industrial is leading sector in Bangladesh in terms of foreign exchange earning. Bangladesh holds the second position in global market share rate of 6.4%, Vietnam third position 5.5%, and leading position by China at 38%. The RMG industrial support about 4.1 million workers with their job, and the number is growing. Indirectly, 1 million families and 4 million people are supported through the RMG sector. However, the COVID-19 situation has significantly dropped the global garments supply chain. My business have been hit hard due to order cancellations and drop. During March to June 2020, USD 3.28 billion worth of orders was cancelled. That impacted 1,150 apparel factories of Bangladesh. As a result, 300 garments factories in Bangladesh permanently closed last year. In the second wave of pandemic, orders were also dropped by 30% from December 2020 to March 2021 season. Moreover, according to the survey of Penn State University Center for Global Workers' Rights, buyers are paying 10% less price for order than earlier. When the pandemic broke out, some brands and retailers cancel order on the pre-force major provision of our sales contract, which put the apparel manufacturers in deep financial crisis, as in many cases, they have already in-house raw material to produce goods of the order from supplier by investing money. Such situation resulted in closure of many factories, which some of them somehow managed to survive by laying off factories under the labor law. Workers are the most vulnerable group, become the worst victim of the crisis. Due to the daily increase in the number of COVID-19 infection in Bangladesh, the government of Bangladesh declared a state lockdown, closure of all public and private offices in country from 26 March, which continued until 30th May 2020. As a result of the lockdown, 10 million working people, including RMG workers, returned to their hometown from Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh, where majority of the garments factories are located, as they were unable to support themselves in Dhaka without work. Unfortunately, during the return journey, safety measures related to the preventions of COVID-19, such as maintaining minimum safe social distance from others, was not respected. Huge crowds are reported on buses, ferries, and trains without maintaining personal protection, which represent a serious risk of infection transmission. The consequences of COVID-19 pandemic for these RMG workers are dire and include uncertainty about whether they will be entitled for wages during the COVID-19 pandemic and related issues such as lack of money for essentials such as food, concern about the reopening of factories during the COVID-19 infection's peak time. Other concerns are the health issues due to lack of preventative measures in the workplace and the development of mental health condition due to the impact of loss of employment and the fear of contracting COVID-19. It is also found that sexual violence against women is increasing in times of COVID-19. During the pandemic, situation more negative news regarding sexual violence in social media. Women are now suffering from depression, anxiety, and psychosomatic symptoms. A victimized woman generally tends to escape legal proceeding as she becomes more stigmatized by society and is afraid of filing complaints, anticipating negligence and humiliation in police station, the court, and society. WHO recommend mitigate the COVID-19 risk as follows. Pay workers sick pay when infected COVID-19, pay wages during period of suspension during quarantine or infected by virus, provide additional support to women's workers if they have specific needs. Bangladesh Government's Manufacturers and Exporter Association, BGMEA, issue a general directive to the member factories regarding reopening of the factories in phases. The first phase with 30% of workforce priorities workers that live nearby respective factory. Second phase, factory may invite back an additional 20% of the workforce that successfully following health and safety guidelines. Those returned from the village should be discouraged to return or not permitted on factory premises until the second phase. Exclude vulnerable workers or those most at risk, such as pregnant women or workers aged 50, but factories should consider pay leave for this worker. Guidelines also measure related to social distancing, use PPE, sanitation, hand washing, having a medical team and separate area for access and quarantine suspected patient, etc. Besides, clothing shipment processes become problematic due to increasing global lockdown impacted by COVID-19, and while demand for online purchases may increase, supply chain could not continue to meet demand, give changes to freight option. The initial industrial response. Governments owner collaborate with governments, suppliers, government association BGMEA, trade union, and civil society to ensure workers are safe working condition and protect workers' well-being financially supported during the pandemic. On 25th March 2020, thanks to our Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, announced a stimulus package of Bangladesh 5,000 crore, equivalent to $588 million for the export-oriented sector to tackle the COVID pandemic. This support helped the industry to stay in business, paying salaries to the worker for 4 months from April to July. It is saved livelihood of the 4.1 million government workers. The government also provided a plethora of policy support to the industry, which are helping the resilient governments, manufacturers of Bangladesh to withstand the crisis. Further respond. Factories need to minimize costs and secure saving. Negotiation with buyers and suppliers in favorable terms for running or cancel production, use stocks or secure the local and the exports market. Reinvent yourself, be creative. Many companies have reinvented themselves in various ways to save the business, innovate, develop new ideas for business. Woman entrepreneur Madam Wong from Malaysia, who runs a government business, have diverted 70% of the products to COVID-19 related products like masks and PPE. It's important we have to embrace the new reality. We have to focus sustainability of our business to follow the change. You may in finding a way to get most of your employees to work from home. E-commerce. is a way forward. Online sales are cutting across border. Since orders are slowing down, overseas orders are stopping. We can introduce online order, linking up the local e-commerce internet companies. Today, retailers are losing out to online store. Consumer buy online. Put the people to learn about e-commerce and understand internet business. Switch the business model from selling to importers to direct sales. According to Alibaba on 2020 single day sales, it chalked up to 56 billion sales. We must embrace the new reality, sustainability, and digitalization. Go digital. Research suggests that in a matter of 8 weeks, 5 years have vaulted in consumer and business digital adoption. The outbreak has led to structural shift, including in consumers' preference of digital engagement and moving to remote working models for employees, which are likely to remain even after post-COVID-19. Learn to adapt. The world we are going through during this time is most life-changing event we likely to experience. None of us imagined a year ago what we will have to face in a few months. None of us imagined our everyday work to be done mostly or completely online from home. None of us imagined that we would exclusively have online meeting, online calls, online events, online training, online campaign, and so on. None of us imagined we could do business without traveling. COVID-19 and its unequal business owner. Consequently, women's entrepreneurs are incurring severe financial losses, and even a significant number of them have permanently closed down their businesses at the initial stage of pandemic. Women entrepreneurs face specific challenges. Women's increased caregiving duties as mother, wife, and in-law. During the coronavirus crisis, part-time servants may not be allowed to work at home for maintaining social distance. The school closure and the healthcare demand set barriers for many of them in adapting their business to a new situation. Instead of all the challenges we are facing, many good-hearted people out there who came forward to help the COVID-19 affected victims. Sharing below the few projects done during the COVID pandemic, donation from our local business group, local NGOs like Rotary, embassies, and NGO from abroad. I sincerely like to thank them for their love and care, for reaching out to help our people in Bangladesh. Their donation means a lot to many of these affected COVID-19 victims. Community service project by Rotary. My club donated oxygen concentrator to this hospital. Many hospitals short of oxygen supply to treat the patient during the pandemic period. The projects on the right is the distribution of these blankets in the orphanage. Thousands of masks was distributed in school and hospital. As you know that Bangladesh people, not all the family can afford to buy disposable masks. So this is one way that we can give this fabric mask and they can reuse again. A community service projects by NGO, Disaster Aid Australia, my very good friend, Dr. Angeline and PDG Low from Australia called me one day and told me they have funds to help COVID victims outside Australia. After discussion with the Dhaka Shishu Hospital, it's the biggest children's hospital in Dhaka with 600 inpatient beds and about 1,000 outpatients every day. We brought this CPAP machine that is similar to ventilator. With this machine, we saved many COVID baby cases, baby's life, and I am very happy to share with you. This is the first baby who are using this CPAP machine. Community service project supported by the Malaysia High Commission in Bangladesh. Distribution of this rickshaw to a disabled man. So this can help this man to find living and support the family. And you can see here all the bags Inside the bags is enough for a family of 5 for 2 weeks. Conclusion and future insight. Combine speed and stability with regards to the former. A business needs to nimble and responsive in keeping with the changing time. This includes in keeping with the changing times, that includes being innovative and dynamic in its thinking, actions, however, to ensure its sustained success and the ability to scale up operation. They need to set a core element such as meeting the needs of the audience, no compromise on the quality, and supply based on demand. Focus on top priorities. Our safety. The priorities is to ensure you, your family, employees, and customer safety. This is easy to manage if you follow relevant sanitation and social distancing guidelines. It's our responsibility to make sure we protect everyone beside us, whether we know or we don't know them. On 4th November last year, I was confirmed COVID positive. And on day 5, I was having pneumonia and on oxygen supply. I started to get worried and panic and wonder, will I be alive to meet my elderly mother and my children in Malaysia? And what will happen to my family and my business? I just know one thing. I need to fight the virus to stay alive. I wanted to see my family. I managed to be a survivor and discharged from hospital after 16 days. God is great. Be confident, be bold, and brave to challenge the pandemic, and I believe our determination will prevail. After the storm comes return, and the bright rainbow will surely appear to greet all of us again. It was immense pleasure for me today to have this opportunity to share with all of you in this virtual NGO CSW 65 forum. My sincere thanks to organizing committee and moderator Mei Lu is also my mentor to invite me to this forum. Happy to meet with all the panelists and thank you all for listening to me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Serene. That's wonderful speech again. And we share your personal experience under the threatening of COVID-19. I know you survived, so brave. Thank you for your experience and share with us. And can I honor to our last speaker, but not least, Shara? Are you here, Shara?
Yes. Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Follow is yours.
Hi.
Just go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Wong. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone here. Okay. I know you're calling from different time zones of the world, which is amazing. So let me share my slide. Okay, so you can see my slide already. Can you? All right. Professor Wang, can you? Okay, yes. All right. So this is Seraphine Ma. I'm the legal representative and executive partner of Baker McKenzie, Taipei. And you may call me Sarah if you like. Okay. As my dear Rotarian friends call me, this becomes my formal name now. Okay. Nobody remembers that I'm a lawyer. Okay. Yes. So thank you for my sister Rotarian Mei Lu to introduce me to join this forum. And today, I want to say that more about my labor law practice, which is relevant to COVID-19. As a labor law lawyer for over 30 years, I often describe myself as a 3 decades old witness that have seen significant developments in labor practice and law, of course. But in all these years, I observed that discrimination has never gone away towards workers who are female and LGBT, meaning lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. And clearly, these groups of workers suffer more unfair treatment in the crisis time of low employment rate, such as the financial meltdown in 2008 and now the COVID-19 pandemic since 2020. And thanks to my law firm, Baker McKenzie, which is an international firm, I'm fortunate to be able to learn about the laws and practice from our 77 offices globally when serving our clients. And now, trust me, our lawyers are also very, very blue in serving our clients because we don't get to travel anymore. Okay, yeah. Therefore, I would like to report today is in what way discrimination impairs female workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, and my 2 cents strategy to reduce its impact during this difficult time. And I hope that we will have a bit more focused report within 15 minutes. So please allow me to focus only on female workers, but not LGBT today. Okay. So during this pandemic time, needless to say, it's become a phenomenal situation where a lot of companies suffered a lot of business contraction. So they have been doing cost-saving measures in order to survive their business. And some common cost-saving measures include wage reduction, okay, and some is a layoff, unfortunately, and some will ask employees to take long leave or to work from home. And this, I believe all of us can understand, okay? We all understand why this is necessary. But there is a lot of impact to everyone. So when employer has to do so, I think we are sympathetic. Okay, we agree that they can do so. But what may be worth noting is whether under these circumstances is like a natural choice to make different treatments to workers because they are women. When this is a difficult time, is there a justification for discrimination? Well, I don't think so. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, I see a lot of discrimination happens to female workers on wage reduction, okay? Please help me think about what you've seen or witnessed. I think wage reduction is very common nowadays, okay? If so, please nod your head. Yeah, okay. And also layoff, okay, there is more impact. And then leave taking or working from home. So do you think this is really happening? Really? Yes, I can tell you that because I've seen so much. And in what way? Does the law allow it? And if not, how does it happen? Because of this is difficult, so women have to suffer due to discrimination? No, but what can we do about it? What can we do about it? Under gender equality law, Taiwan sets up the principle of no discrimination. And actually, because I've seen the practice and law in so many countries, this has been considered a very common basic practice globally. I mean, no discrimination because we are women, okay? Therefore, we rarely see employers taking gender as a direct consideration for doing all this wage reduction, layoff, etc. However, does this mean there was no discrimination case? Well, actually, there are a lot of discrimination cases. Admittedly, it must be due to the huge salary differences of penalty and civil compensation. Okay, so for example, let me show you. In USA, there is a historical case that find this person doing sexual harassment to a nurse up to, let's see, 168 million US dollars. And that's back in 2008 in California. However, in Taiwan, do you know how much is it? If an employer violates the gender equality law to select women as the preferred target for all these cost-saving programs, the penalty is only around 10,000 to 20,000 US dollars. So you can see that due to such a huge difference in penalty, and because the insignificant penalty in some countries, employers may rather risk taking the chance to discriminate the more vulnerable female workers, so to speak. Yes. So legally speaking, I just want to share you, Taiwan does not allow any unilateral wage reduction. In other words, an employer cannot unilaterally request employees to reduce salary, regardless whether their work hours will be also reduced accordingly. This is so unless the employees cannot work due to the government's order, such as shutdown or quarantine. Okay, and even if the employees agree to work for reduced hours with reduced pay, the employer still has the responsibility to give a minimum salary. And then the implementation time should be no longer than 3 months. Plus, the employers cannot prohibit the employees from taking another job. So what I may suggest doing is that even when you are doing the wage reduction, etc., we can still reduce the risk of discrimination because there are so many limitations. It's really not worth doing. And how do we do that? To educate employees and employer. I think employees need to know about their right to reject or at least to negotiate a fair treatment when the employer wants to conduct a wage reduction. As for the employers, they also need to realize the real consequence, the entire picture, okay? They will not only be penalized by the minimum payment as what I just mentioned, and the discrimination treatment itself can be found illegal and therefore not binding at all. As a result, the entire action of wage reduction, not just for the discriminated employees, may be declared void. So all your efforts will be just wasted. So as a result, although the laws of most countries in the world do not allow an employer's selection to be based on gender or sexual orientation, in practice, however, apparently devil can hide in the devils. While designing the selection criteria for a layoff, it is possible to make it disadvantageous to women. How, you would say? For example, setting a selection criteria based on the availability to work at night, or setting a criteria that if a family has 2 income sources, one will be on the priority list for layoff. So you see, if this is a criteria, inevitably, women may more likely fall into the targets for layoff because they may need to go home at night, so they would not like to work overtime. And if one of the 2 income sources has to be laid off, in Chinese culture, men are supposed to keep the job and be the bread earner of the family. Okay, so last but not the least, there is leave taking and working from home, all these methods. Based on gender equality law, however, female employees in Taiwan can apply for child caring leave. Although before the, sorry, my slide is a bit slow. Yeah, so actually they can take a long leave up to 3 years. Okay, but before the pandemic, employers don't like it because it takes so long, during which time the employers will have difficult time to keep the position for return and then also find alternative manpower for 3 years. But during the pandemic, now employer will, they now encourage women to take such a long leave or to work from home. I guess employers suppose that women are more suitable to take care of their children. However, on a second thought, why must it be a woman? I will take myself as actually a bad example. I truly admire motherhood, but for me personally, my children always know that when mom is working, she could not hear anything, okay, anything else but work. So I remember this picture. It was taken when my 2 children were both studying in the US, and I was working my tail off on a criminal lawsuit at that moment. But I still managed to fly over there for a wonderful Christmas holiday with them in Las Vegas. So what I'm saying is, I would not be a good full-time mom, but I still love my children and make time for them. Okay, I do not want to sacrifice my work, but I'm still a good mother, I believe. Okay, so anyway, so what I want to say is that employers should not offer the long leave or working from home to women because, discrimination. And employers should offer leave taking or this working from home to all employees, regardless of their gender. That is the true gender equality. Okay, so and then I want to say that to actually work from home is really a common practice right now. So the choice should be purely based on employees' free choice, the nature of their work, and whether they have a safe environment to work from home. Okay. You can see, I want to show you also a picture of my father holding me when I was only 1 month old. I think this is the only time he was so close to me. Sadly, maybe even as a judge at that time, he also had a discrimination because he thinks that only women can hold me tight. So he hardly hold me. All right. Yeah, my final conclusion, due to the time limit, I try to make it quicker. At a chaotic time like this, I believe we all strive to transition our work and life to a new era. Okay, some people will give away the rights of weaker women. Okay, they think women are weaker. Yeah, but some might say, hey, since we have to sacrifice, who is the one that should sacrifice? That is women. Okay, and then if you don't cooperate more cruelly, they will make you feel guilty. But why will women feel guilty for what's not supposed to be imposing upon us due to discrimination? Just like when sexual harassment happens, why will women feel guilty for being a victim? Do you know that after the Me Too action, a settlement with the victim of sexual harassment will be not enforceable and will even cause a more severe penalty? So please remember, this is an era of no discrimination against anyone. So finally, notwithstanding, it takes integrity and courage for all of us to stand out and speak up that in no case female will be discriminated, even during the pandemic. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That's excellent speech for our anti-discrimination issues at the COVID-19 time. I think in Taiwan, we are so lucky to have you. And some women should go to see you how to get right back. Thank you, excellent speech. Thank you. I think we only have 1 minute. Our this limits go to Jim Meijin. Jimmy, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. She's going to give a 1 minute's remark. Thank you.
30 minutes. I just want to say thank you to all the 4 great speakers and our co-moderator. Yes, as an organizer and co-moderator, I would like to say thank you, and also like to thank all the staff members of the organization team in Taiwan for everybody's hard work and support. Thank you for making it a successful one. Once again, thank you for all your participation and contribution. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Yes. Yeah, thank you. The 4 great. Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
God
you.
bless
Bye.
all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.